Hi, I'm Katie with Live and Work in Maine. Come along as we interview some educators today. What is your name?
My name's Katie.
And where do you teach?
I teach at the A.R. Gould School.
And what is your role? Tell us a bit about the school.
Sure, I'm actually the school administrator. We're a school that works with juveniles that are Department of Corrections involved.
And were you a classroom teacher beforehand?
I was. I taught at York High School in southern Maine for 5 years.
Did you grow up in Maine or did you find yourself here?
I did. I'm a Mainer. Every time I leave, I come back.
What is your favorite thing about living in Maine?
I think one of the greatest things about living in Maine is that you kind of get advantages across the board, right? You're close to the water, you're close to the mountains, you get the small town feel and that like really close-knit community, but you also have tons of advantages. I live near Portland, so there's tons of access. So I get to feel like I got the small town, but I also have everything that I could want right at my fingertips.
What is your most memorable classroom experience?
You know, I get to work with kids that have often had some difficulties in school, and I think most of my memorable experiences are seeing kids relate to school and find things about school that draw them in, and that moment of realizing that school can be a safe space is a pretty incredible moment to see.
What about someone who is not yet in Maine? We want to attract teachers to Maine. What would you tell them?
Yeah, I think one of the great things about teaching in Maine is that Maine is a locally controlled state, which means all of our towns are really committed to the education that's happening, and there's a lot of community involvement, which you don't necessarily get in other places. It's something very unique to the state. I've taught in other cities, and you don't necessarily get that community feel to the degree that you get in Maine, and it largely comes down to the fact that communities are actually making decisions on a regular basis about what happens in their schools, and they're really committed to seeing their kids succeed.
So this is really unique for Maine.
I think it's incredibly unique.
What about someone who is a new teacher, someone who's fresh out of school? What advice would you give them?
Finding mentorship is really great, finding people that you relate to, but also looking for teachers or administrators that maybe think differently than you and challenging yourself can be really wonderful. I think I learned a lot from the people that were different than me, not just the people that had really similar teaching ethics or backgrounds.
Do you like the lakes or the ocean better?
Ocean.
Do you like the potatoes or Maine blueberries better?
Oh, potatoes for sure.
Do you like whoopie pies or Needhams?
Oh, whoopie pies.
Coke or Moxie?
Coke. That's a tough one. Coke. It's not Maine, but it's the truth. Okay. I teach in Maine because there's a feeling of community that I just haven't been able to find anywhere else I've lived or worked. Learn more at teach.liveworkmaine.com.